What was going on? What happened? These people, they were asking us to give them something, a piece of bread. But it was impossible because of this grate, not even a piece of bread. They took them to these rooms where I live for interrogations and beatings. They beat them half to death. Whenever I go in there, only eternal rest. And I was so afraid that there may be something in there, maybe a body or something. Can I ask you something? Okay. Would you pray with us down there? Yes, we can. Would you take the key and show us to the cell? Yes, I can show you. Okay, I'll go down with you. Yeah, I will open it. I'll turn on the lights. And this is what it looks like. Holy Mother. Yes, I know it says Mother. Holy Mother, freedom. Yes, it must be read. Freedom. In the matter before us, will there be any questions? Judges? Prosecutor? Was this unit subordinate to the defendant? Yes, it was. When the defendant arrived, were the Soviet soldiers alive? Yes, they were. When were they killed? If I could just describe the event, when were they killed? I don't remember. Was the defendant present at the time? Yes, I was. In what capacity? Supervisory. His superior? Pardon? His superior? Yes, his superior. That means the defendant could have stopped the killing? I could, and I did. There is a saying that's quite apt here, from the Hungarian writer Imre Maraja. The Soviet army liberated us, but did not bring us freedom. Why did they not bring us freedom? Because they had no freedom themselves. It was not an army of freedom. Our tragedy of 1944, begun by the entry of the Soviets into Poland, into the territory of the Second Republic, signified that the Soviets did not respect Polish sovereignty, the integrity of the country. There would be no Polish independence. There would be liberation from German occupation, and so there was, but instead we had enslavement and a new occupation. From a secret Polish Workers' Party file. Today the Comintern goes full steam ahead, casting its net over the whole world. The first strike of the Soviet armies will split Germany in two. We practically have half of Europe in our hands, and the other half has been softened up. The behavior of the Red Army, the soldiers, led to a gigantic increase in anti-Soviet resistance in Poland. The pacification of the countryside did not stop after the retreat of the Germans. It continued later. I'm talking about pacification with executions and the razing of villages, just like we associate with the German occupation. The village is surrounded, people are forced from their homes, soldiers enter the buildings, looting, killing, burning the buildings. This was happening in 1944-45, here in the Rzeszów region. In 3 districts, Brodnica, Lubawa and Grudziądz, in September 1945, Red Army soldiers committed 208 attacks, murdered 51 Poles, raped 115 women, razed 20 buildings, and stole 543 head of cattle and pigs. At the same time, NKVD units, employing various methods of provocation, arrested and deported the men en masse. Of course, in Poland it was forbidden to write about it or even to talk about it. Supplies were stopped, famine spread. The Soviets looted the Polish harvest of 1944, and winter was a time of hunger. We have to be clear, nobody wanted communism in Poland, apart from a group of people who had been bought or were hungry for power at any cost, even at the cost of their own countrymen. In the establishment of communist authority in Poland, the Soviets and their services played a key role. First and foremost, the NKVD troops, counter-espionage or Smersh, but also simply the presence of several million Soviet soldiers. From a secret NKGB meeting. Stalin's tactics are brilliant and foolproof. Before millions of Soviet soldiers move against the capitalist world, ahead of them must go thousands of our agents, millions in money and leaflets. Our aggression is first of all moral aggression, before it becomes military. First it incapacitates, then it finishes you off. PKWN, the Polish Committee for National Liberation, usurped the right to be the seed of the future communist authority, completely illegal, completely subordinate to Stalin. Stalin ridiculed Bierut, ridiculed Gomulka, and ridiculed Osóbka-Morawski. But for us, the backlash would finish you off and you would cease to exist. Without Smersh and the NKVD, they would simply not have been in a position to do anything. At the beginning of April, NKVD and NKGB functionaries posing as repatriated Poles came to Silesia. They were distributed amongst offices and factories to identify the opposition and prepare purges in industry and administration. The Silesian voivodeship, a total of 1,200 agents. Tarnów, 20 as traders. Nowy Sącz, 60 as railway security. Legnica, an NKVD company, 1,200 men. Pustków near Dębica, an NKVD training camp, 800 recruits. Brzesko, 36 in the telecommunications service. In Przemyśl, an NKVD unit in the 5th Infantry Regiment barracks. Zgorzelec, 402 men in the uniforms of border guards. When it turned out that the Polish independence movement was largely infiltrated by the communists, the leadership were arrested, murdered or transported. Polish underground state, in the shape that it had been until that time, in fact ceased to exist. The trial of 16 leaders of the Polish underground state in Moscow was a typical propaganda exercise, where the Soviets claimed that the Home Army had conducted diversionary tactics against the Red Army in the rear of the Eastern Front, allegedly cooperating thereby with the Germans.
Armii Czerwonej, rzekomo współpracując tutaj z Niemcami. To też jest właśnie taka dobra kalka.
This is a good template for the attitude of the leaders of the Soviet Union. When you first invite someone for talks, then you arrest them, deport them to another country, arrange a show trial and sentence them to long terms of imprisonment. In Poland there was a reorganization of power. The Home Army underground, after the dissolution of the Home Army, undergoes many changes. There are attempts to form many organizations. Finally, in September 1945, there is a concept that comes to fruition, the creation of the resistance movement without conflict and diversion, WIN, freedom and independence. The first General Council of WIN arose in September 1945 under Lieutenant Colonel Jan Rzepecki at a meeting of the senior officers of the Home Army High Command. From the start, there were proposals to announce to the population what it is exactly that we were fighting for. Above all, free elections, the withdrawal of the Soviet Army from the territory of the Republic of Poland. We publish newspapers, we issued responses, and we conduct information actions and hold the majority of our force underground. We would only come into the open when we would be able to operate legally. We had no commander-in-chief, we had a president. There were no regional commanders, there were chairmen or directors. The armed partisan conflict was discontinued or stopped, or attempts were made to stop it, since it was very hard to bring these people out of the forests when they had nowhere else to go. This is not a battle like many people imagine, where armed units attacked the communists. This was a battle of self-defense. What did it depend on? On repelling attacks when attacked, on liberating prisoners. I mean those arrested and held in jails. On liquidating informers and those that collaborated with the forces of repression in the struggle with the resistance. In 1945, the Polish underground freed people from over 100 prisons and jails. The underground newspapers came out in such a way that the free press at least reached those people that it ought to reach and who wanted to keep in touch with it. Effective counterintelligence measures were initiated. WIN informers worked in the Ministry of Public Security and in the district and regional public security offices. November 1945. Note from a secret meeting of Security Office prison officers, Colonel Weinzult. Comrades, we have 131 prisons on the map of Poland, holding 62,000 convicts. The WIN First General Council was broken up as the result of the infiltration of communication channels with the government in exile. In the autumn of 1945, a significant part of the First Council were arrested. It is our understanding that it was an autonomous organization, which, in addition to the fact that it recognized the legitimacy of the national government, but it is understood that it was perceived as criminal since it was an illegal organization, it nevertheless did not recognize authority from abroad. The team of leaders of the emigration at the time were, for me, a group of people that, so to say, resented history. Stanisław Mikołajczyk presented a similar position to Rzepecki, and without consultation with the government in exile in London, accepts an invitation from Stalin to talks about the newly created communist government in Poland. In order to participate in the talks, he agrees to the Yalta provisions, thereby ceding Poland's eastern lands, Kresy, to Soviet control. Mikołajczyk, counting on Stalin honoring the Yalta provisions, accepts the position of second deputy prime minister in the Provisional Government of National Unity. He planned to create a legal political force to fight communism in the upcoming elections. What was the role of Mr. Mikołajczyk at the time? Mikołajczyk filled the role of Deputy Prime Minister. He declared that he would resolve the internal situation in Poland by elections, since he believes that he would win the elections outright, having, as he thought, the support of the majority of the community. And then he would take power, legal power, and then Wien could move to open legal activity. From a secret Polish Workers' Party Central Committee circular. When elections don't give us the base to maintain our current position, we will seek a solution on a different level, not excluding armed conflict. The stakes, the goal of the whole game, are the elections announced at the Yalta Conference. Both the underground and the openly operating opposition play for the same stakes, for the communists to not be able to falsify the results. Because for the whole independence movement, both clandestine and overt, it is obvious that in free elections, in democratic elections, the communists have no chance of victory. At Bierut's request, Moscow sends Aaron Palkin's group, specialists at election fraud. Almost 500,000 functionaries were recruited as security office agents. 80,000 citizens are put in jail, and 400,000 lose their voting rights. Of 5,500 election commissions, the communists control 3,500. They declare the results in which they gain 80% support, and the People's Party barely 10%. Years later, it is revealed that the true proportions were reversed. Society was forced to accept it, passively to accept it, to come to terms with the fact that the false results were published and what? Bolesław Bierut becomes president of People's Poland. For the good of the Polish nation, for the good of the nation. If the trial is to act as propaganda, at least some of the convicts should testify according to the expectations of the secret police. The person who played a prominent role in the security service was Józef Różański. This is the man that you can call the director of these trials. And he was remembered by those that survived the hell in Mokotów on Rakowiecka as an extremely intelligent person, an intelligent brute, you could say, a man with no scruples of any kind, who was simply evil personified. He ordered the brutal torture of interrogation subjects, but he also used psychological methods. He was a specialist at breaking pre-war officers by giving them his word of honor as an officer that if they revealed their subordinate structures, then their men would go unpunished. But if they persisted in their resistance, then everyone would be caught eventually anyway, and then they would all get heavy sentences, including the death penalty. One of the most dramatic stories concerns Emilia Malessa, codenamed Marysia, who trusted Goldberg-Różański. She believed his word of honor that if she named names, gave addresses and contact points, then these people would be safe. They would not be arrested. Józef Goldberg-Różański did not keep his word of honor. He had no intention of doing so. As we know, Emilia Malessa ended tragically. She took her own life, as she could not bear the burden that she had taken onto herself. In the face of the legal requirement issued by official organs to reveal that which I myself considered to be undoubted wrong, and in the face of the fact that the official organs, which at this time clearly are the security services, have guaranteed the freedom of the colleagues named by me, I have decided on the act of disclosure from prison. That is all I have to say about that. The trial is conducted in such a way as to show that the leaders of WIN, including Colonel Jan Rzepecki, who dishonorably joins this propaganda script, are people who negate their former activity. They indicate a certain futility in remaining in conspiracy. What Rzepecki did was not only politically improper, but above all, even in some way shameful, because severing ties with the Polish independent government de facto turned attention to the communist government. It is what it is, but it is a government, it is operating in Poland under different conditions, in which case our place, our role is here. If many times during the occupation we were unable to understand certain actions of the émigré government, if some of their publications or actions were irritating, others incomprehensible, we always told ourselves, they know best. They must have some aces up their sleeves. We did not suspect that ultima ratio is intransigence and obstinacy, that they have some IOUs in their pockets, that they will present for discounting when the time comes. Rzepecki admits to the accusations. He denounces the Home Army and the Polish government in exile. He presents the communists with the legacy of the Home Army, secret archives, print shops, radio stations, and $1 million in gold. Furthermore, he calls on the remaining members of WIN to reveal themselves in return for guarantees of immunity. The security service, Bezpieka, to add credence to Rzepecki's appeal, lets him go free. It is significant. It shows that if you repent, if you reveal your activities, then you can count on mercy. Then you will not be repressed. Tens of thousands of people turned themselves in, wrote their name, date of birth, father's name, code names, unit they served in. It disarmed the conspiracy. Many officers, many commanders of these territorial structures were aggrieved because people remained in the forests, formidable units remained, but nothing could be done with. It wasn't that these people wanted to be in the conspiracy, they had to stay there. They didn't have any documents, they had no possibility of evacuation. They could reveal themselves and be slaughtered, or they could stay and fight to the end for their dignity, for their lives, the lives of their families. And that was their role, and they fulfilled that role. Lieutenant Colonel Franciszek Niepokulczycki took command. A lecturer at the higher military school, founder of KEDIV, the Subversion Directorate, right hand of General August Emil Fieldorf. He was a field officer and engaged in so-called black operations. He activated efficient channels of communication with the Polish authorities remaining in exile. They were used to transport couriers, money, and instructions. I ordered Ciepliński and the head of the intelligence brigade to find a way that would facilitate contact with the General Kopański. A way was found through the American embassy. Rostworowski put me in contact with Colonel Pashley. A request for help in getting our people out to the west. You mean the Dardanelles delegation? Yes, that's right, our people to the west. In the evening, Rostvorovsky reported, declaring that departure was fixed for that night. A ship was waiting at port in Gdańsk, and he took with him the head of the delegation, Kazimierz Maciołek, and they went to Gdańsk. Who went? Rostvorovsky and Maciołek. Rostvorovsky and Maciołek, on orders from Colonel Niepokulczycki, travelled to London. There they set up the Overseas Department, a Wien delegation under the code name Dardanella. The delegation was to unite the divided immigration, develop communications with the country, exchange information with British and American intelligence. The money raised for the struggle and enciphered orders are delivered by couriers. I was suddenly summoned to London, to the Ministry of Military Affairs. There I saw Maciołek, whom I had last seen in Silesia. He said, "It's good that you're here. I've come from Poland and I'm the commander of the Polish underground group Wien. And I know that you know a little English. I need someone I can trust. I want you to be my secretary and adjutant." Maciołek and Rostvorovsky, as special envoys of Wien, are ordered to take a memorandum out of the country by the secret escape route and take it to the United Nations Security Council. The memorandum was proof of the serious violations of the United Nations Charter by the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics as a member of the UN. It was a vast collection of descriptions and intercepted reports from secret meetings and party deliberations documenting the criminal communist terror masking global expansion under the slogans of people's democracy. If the UN is to meet its core objectives and tasks, if, after the monstrous murders carried out on children, women and the elderly, which took place primarily in Poland, and continue before the eyes of the whole world, then the process of extermination, violation and destruction of the Polish nation and of Polish statehood, absorption by the foreign Soviet organism, must as soon as possible be stopped, examined and eliminated. The arrest of Colonel Niepokulczycki was connected to the smashing of the intelligence brigades and the Kraków-Wien network. It began in August 1946. The operation spread to Upper Silesia, and Niepokulczycki lived in Zabrze. And so, on the 22nd of October 1946, an operational group from the Ministry of Public Security knocked on his door. And there was no doubt as to who was who. Until 1947, military courts still sat in the shadow of a cross. During the trial of the Second Wien General Council, this cross stood on the judge's bench. This was to disinform the accused, so that he would believe that this was a normal court, like those he knew from before the war. The communists set up a special judiciary for swift, easy verdicts in political trials. These are regional military prosecutors, militarized communist courts, delivering verdicts for crimes against the communist state. On the one hand, we have the recruitment to the judiciary and the military prosecutor of pre-war communists. On the other hand, among the military judges and prosecutors, there will definitely be a certain number of pre-war lawyers who, for various reasons, engage in the activities of this organ. A given judge, who had to hear 3 or 4 cases a day, was given a card with 3 types of symbols next to the names: a cross, a circle, or a number. A cross signified that a death sentence was to be issued. A circle was a life imprisonment sentence, and numbers indicated the number of years that were to be handed down. So the people had already been sentenced earlier outside the court, politically. The trial itself was solely theatre. The defendants Ciepliński, Łazarowicz, Chmiel, Błażej, Kawalec, Kubik, Rzepka and Batory, sentenced to death. The man who wrote the script for the show trial of the Second Wien General Council was Roman Werfel. Our party must be united. This is the task that is set before us by the Polish reality. It was Werfel who decreed that in the trial of the Second Wien General Council, a connection should be made between the underground and the PSL. Within a month of the verdicts in the Kraków-Wien trial, Mikołajczyk flees Poland, and that is the end of the activity of an independent PSL. Alongside Colonel Kwieciński in the dock were placed activists from the Conciliation Committee of the Democratic Polish Underground. Once they had dealt with the PSL and the underground, the Communist Party started to prepare for a merger with the PPS. They began to prepare the unification of the workers' movement, as it was called then. New opponents were being brought into the spotlight, independent socialists. The Polish United Workers' Party. The motif of collaboration with Western imperialist states, as it was called, gained significance over time. There began a period known as spymania, tracking contact with the free world. Colonel Pashley took us to his car. I asked Colonel Pashley to give me an authoritative answer. Will there be a war or not? Since a warlike attitude is present in Poland. Disclosures conducted at this time were also halted. Colonel Pashley told me at that time that war is inevitable. There must be a war. Everybody expected it. The communists were watching the underground from the point of view of potential threats in the event of an outbreak of military operations. The leaders of the Polish underground hoped that eventually the West would wake up and would come into conflict with the Soviets. In accordance with the instructions I had brought, which said that conspiratorial activity was to be minimalized, and we were to rather focus on survival, since the date of the conflict was unpredictable, but was improbable within at least 15 years. Ciepliński began preparations for this type of activity. Major Łukasz Ciepliński was a professional officer of the Polish army. He distinguished himself during the campaign of September 1939, for which he was awarded the Virtuti Militari Cross. During the Wien conspiracy, he was transferred to Kraków, where he created the Kraków region of Wien, and later he took on the position of president of the Fourth General Council of Wien. I went to Colonel Ciepliński to say goodbye and to inform him that I was leaving. And he suddenly said to me, "There are arrests in the country, as you know, traps and so on. You have some experience of conspiracy work. Could you stay?" And I stayed.
Czwarty Zarząd Główny...
The Fourth General Council was a rather well-coordinated group of officers who came from one region, you could say, if you look at their biographies.
Przejrzy ich biografię.
It was mainly the Rzeszów Inspectorate, the Rzeszów region. Then they were transferred to Kraków and created the structures of part of the Southern District.
Obszaru południowego.
When I entered the church where I was to meet Ciepliński, I was jumped by 5 bruisers who tumbled me to the ground. In Warsaw, in the afternoon, I was led into an office, a very elegant office. There sat a man in his 50s. It turned out this was Deputy Minister Mietkowski. So we will confront you with Mr. Łukasz Ciepliński, codename Plough. And so, after half an hour, Plough was brought in. He was then still in good condition, mentally, I guess. We greeted each other, shook hands. And then he spoke to me, saying, Mr. Jacek, that was my code name. I was arrested before you, and I have been swamped with such an amount of information that testifies to the total infiltration of our council that I have decided to sign a so-called silent agreement of disclosure. This was his plan. Maybe he hoped that he could still protect us from disaster. At the time, I held the position of commander of the Southern District. Of what? Of Wien. And you made contact as a representative of whom? As a representative of the organization Wien. Obviously an illegal organization. An illegal organization. I listened to their testimony very carefully. I observed their demeanor. Moreover, I listened with great care to what the prosecutor and the chief judge were saying. None of the accused any chance of defense. Maybe the accused, as an old officer, can tell us, how do we call the act of passing information, particularly military information, to a foreign power? Yes. What do we call it? Maybe the defendant would call it by name. Cooperation. It's simply called spying. No one was allowed to visit Mr. Ciepliński. His wife came with an infant she wanted to show him, because the baby had been born when he was already in prison. And she said that only when someone opened the door and she lifted the baby like that to show him, that a tear came to his eyes and he went red when he saw the child, his son, Andrzejek. Later he would write to him in the farewell letter. He's writing to Andrzejek too. For 6 days they did not get anything to eat throughout the trial. They were given only 1 cube of sugar for the whole day. So mother went and bought some biscuits. And she took these biscuits to where they were gorging on hams and other delicacies. And one of them says, "Get out." They threw mother out the doors with the biscuits and they wouldn't let her give them to daddy. Mr. Ciepliński had his arms and legs broken. They carried him on a blanket to be interrogated, and still they tortured him some more. He was walking on crutches. I had seen him 18 months, less than a year earlier, and he was already a shadow of a man. My brother was led out of his cell on frosty days, soaked in cold water, which froze on him. It's no wonder he was coughing during the trial. He almost had tuberculosis. I was ordered to organize points for couriers coming from overseas, where they could be met. These points were to be in Warsaw and Kraków. The accused had precisely written roles, and they simply had to follow the script. Otherwise, the trial might be stopped and investigations restarted against them. Present in the courtroom were the security agents who had previously persecuted these accused. The investigation techniques, including sometimes specific torture methods that had to be used, they were, you could say, techniques that this first group of these Kubyszewiaks had been taught by the NKVD. Kubyszewiaks were a group of several hundred soldiers selected from the ranks of the Polish army in Russia and sent for training to Kubieszew near Stalingrad, hence the name. For special training run by the NKVD as the future staff of the Polish Defense of Public Security. A total of 24 came to Rzeszów in September 1944, and these 24 took up directorial positions in the district offices and the voivodeship office. Lieutenant Ludwik Bojanowski, one of the operational directors in Rzeszów, was a functionary of the Communist Bezpieka of the Voivodeship Office of Public Security for the Rzeszów region. One of the leading people, really one of the key people, who, under the direction of the NKVD, previously smashed, organized ambushes, roundups and arrests. I ordered the liquidation, among others, of Lieutenant Bojanowski from the Voivodeship Security Office. You ordered who liquidated? I ordered the hit squad, yes. Lieutenant Bojanowski? When was this? Early spring 1946. Who was Lieutenant Bojanowski? Director of section. In the Voivodeship Security Office? That's right, in Rzeszów. Did the accused order him liquidated? That's right, I ordered him shot. When they were asked if they had anything to say after the verdict, Daddy said that he regretted nothing that he had done in his life and that if he were born again, he would do it all again. Łukasz Ciepliński said it beautifully in his prison messages. They can take my life, but who I am and what I fought for, that they can never take away from me.
Tego mi odebrać nie mogą.
I had a door here, and they came out through these doors. They took them into these rooms here, where I live, for interrogations and beatings, and they beat them almost to death. They were vindictive. In the apartment, one wall was covered in blood. The whole wall. I know that people were beaten and suffered here. Above all, we must honor these people because they died for our Poland. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Ghost, Amen. Eternal rest grant unto them, O Lord, and let perpetual light shine upon them. May they rest in peace. Good Jesus, sweet Lord, grant them eternal rest.